Beverly Reynolds still thinks of herself as a girl, and she's a very talented one at that. She's an artist, a songwriter, and a singer.
It's a gift that God has given me. And I used to sing a lot as a child growing up. It is like, when I sing, everything becomes light, and there's a joy inside of me. So I love to sing. And I would always be singing. If I'm washing, I'm singing. If I'm cleaning the house, I'm singing. So I sing at weddings. I sing here. Every now and again, they ask me to do something in the work, or when we have staff talent. And of course, I sing at church.
She's a former teacher and has a very strong social sector background, and was most recently the coordinator for health and human development at the CARICOM Secretariat. Family comes first for Beverly. She said while she was fortunate to have accepted the position at the CARICOM Secretariat when her sons were young adults, she had made a vow not to go anywhere without them.
When I joined the Secretariat in 2003, the youngest one was just about ready to go off to university. Actually, this is something that I'd always decided from before, that as a mother, that was what took preeminence, right? So I wasn't going to go anywhere without them. And when I came to CARICOM and I saw the nature of the work in terms of, in those days when, you really had to be traveling quite a bit, I said to myself, I am so glad that I am here at this time when my children are basically grown. And so that kind of what I realized some parents, some mothers, fathers too, had to give up or had to balance. I didn't have that. But because they weren't young, they were still young enough, but I would say basically adults and trying to make a life for themselves. It didn't mean that they didn't call on me from time to time for whether it's to talk, for guidance, for whatever. But it was definitely for me more manageable, and it's something that long before in all of my paths, career paths, my family came first.
She's a strong believer in God, who she says has guided her path from her homeland in Jamaica to the Secretariat. A former health specialist at the Planning Institute of Jamaica, she joined the Secretariat family in 2003.
Here is like 100-fold, because you're moving from working with one country, right, one set of persons, to where you're now working with 20 countries and having to think outside of just one country now. And what are we trying to achieve for the community? And how can we make sure that the same level of health access and the same level of educational access that is happening in one country, it is the same that can be happening in the other countries? And what do we need at this point in time, at this place? What do we need to set in place so that it is, even you don't have one country way out there and another country in this way.
She describes her experience over the past 19 years as very varied and rich. Apart from Coordinator Health and Human Development in the Directorate of Human and Social Development, the title she held as she demitted office in June, Ms. Reynolds has contributed to the regional integration movement through her work in several other areas of the Directorate, including youth, gender, crime and security, and sustainable development.
Thinking about my lifetime here, it's been very varied and very rich. It's been a tremendous, tremendous journey. I started in 2003. And as I've said, it's been really tremendous. I've worked with the youth desk. I've worked with the gender desk. I've worked, I think maybe the only area that I have not been involved with formally is the culture one. But informally, because of what we do here at the Secretariat too, which is like your staff talent. And when there was CARIFesta, I was able to exhibit as an artist from here in the very first CARIFesta that since I was here in when I came first in Suriname.
Okay.
But it's been very, very good. So I started out as a deputy program manager, and then after a couple of years, some years, I moved across to sustainable development as program manager for sustainable development. So I took some of this, the portfolio from health, like the ones to do with substance use, drugs, the ones to do with disabilities and the aging, the regional nursing matters, CCA, Caribbean Cooperation in Health, phase 3.
Yeah.
And added to that now were the issues of poverty, because now in my portfolio as program manager for sustainable development, I had the aspect that looks at human development. You would know that there's the environment aspect, there's the
Yes.
economic aspect, and there's the human.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were part of those issues, but also now looking at other issues that would impact on human and social development. And around about that time, I think we lost the coordinator for crime and security. So I became involved now in, I carried that portfolio for a while. And yes, while we did some of the policy stuff with impacts, the part that I loved in this time was I was now working with UNODC. We were working with them. We developed the Caribbean Social and Development Action Plan, which addresses crime and violence. I worked with the government of Spain in a project that we had, which was looking at crime and violence in schools, youth violence. And so that was really, really, really interesting.
She shared with us the high points of her tenure at the Secretariat.
Two things I think I will always take away from here. I mean, I thank God for the experience, I've met some wonderful people here in Guyana, both within the organization and outside, and I've learned a lot from them. But if what I think I will always talk about would have been those opportunities when we were able to interact and interface with the young people in the communities, in the countries. And we were able to do that through the Global Fund when it just started, and there was, you know, the whole thing about the HIV/AIDS and educating, and we had to, through the Global Fund, we were able to go to a number of countries. And I remember my own country, we went there, and we were able to take the training and the workshops into the inner city community. And what I found there is there's so many talented people, so many talented, gifted, artistic people, articulate people. They might not say it the way we say it, but you get the message when they talk. That's one of them. And the other thing was, I remember doing another set of workshops in Trinidad, because for me, I don't normally just go and present the facts from the research, but I used to teach. So part of what I do would be to also do programs and do the training myself. And I remember we were having a training in Trinidad. Trinidad was one of the 5 countries that we were actually doing this program with the government of Spain in. And we had a sensitization. So you had parents, teachers, community people, and there was somebody from the regional teacher association, I think it was. And it was when, I mean, apart from the joy that I get working with the young people and seeing how they respond and listening to them, you know, because they'll just tell you up front as it is, and I like that. It's very refreshing. But it was when this gentleman stood up and said, for the first time, I am feeling CARICOM, right? It was, I guess what it meant was, we weren't an organization removed up there. but he was experiencing what we were doing, and it made sense to him, and it mattered to him. The last thing which I will always take away was we were doing some training in a country where, well, we were doing a series of training for persons who were in gangs and want to come out of the gangs, right? And so we were dealing with the issues. What will it mean? What do you need to do? And so on. First time in my life I was seeing an M16. That was the first thing. And I remember on the last, so we had a retreat in this particular country, and we had about 16 leaders, and these were not boys, men. And I realized that, especially when they get older, they have the same dreams and hopes for their children. They don't necessarily want them. They have those who do, but they don't want them to follow in this particular way that they're going. And perhaps they want to get out too, but it's a hard life for them. It's a hard way, because here you are, especially if you're the leader, you're getting respect, you're getting money, the power. If we're going to take that away, what are we giving them? The policy stuff they're good, they're important. Having the policies in place and the legislation, we can't work without those. But I think it's when we are able to reach where the people are, where they need to experience firsthand what we're trying to do.
It's her conviction that when we are looking after youth, children, the elderly, and the vulnerable, it speaks to who we are as a people. It's important to work with the youth and invest in them, she says.
They are the future. And I'm not just parroting words. For me, they are the future. And I think we have to train them well. I don't know if you've ever come across this quotation, this saying that you can be the sage on the stage. You know, the sage is this wise person. You can be the sage on the stage, talking about what you know, sharing your knowledge, or you can be the guide on the side. So the young people are up there, and we are the guides on the side, helping them along, because they are the future. I think young people and children and the elderly, the vulnerable, and the future. It says who we are as a people, as a country, as a nation, when we're looking after those vulnerable, when we're looking about the future. And I think we are blessed in the region. We have a lot of fantastic young people, bright, talented. They don't always channel it the right way. So some of those who have really good, smart brain, because perhaps the systems that they have to contend with, and maybe they don't have somebody to be there to encourage and motivate them, then they fend for themselves. And somebody steps in, because that's how the gangs used to work. I will be your mother, I will be your father, I will be your provider. Right? I've seen that played out in a country too, where the question was asked to this little 9-year-old boy, so what is it you like about the gang? He says, well, you know, when I do something, they praise me. They tell me, good job, well done. Bad things, you know, they're getting the affirmation. And so we need to invest in the young people. We need to invest in them. We need to invest in the children. The research has shown that there is an economic tie, link, association between childhood health, childhood ability to learn, and economic growth of the individual and later on in life, right? So we just need to carve out a space for them. Don't get me wrong, mature people, persons in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, there's so much that can be, that they have to contribute. But just imagine how powerful that would be if you had persons like that who are the guides on the side.
Going forward, she wants to focus on her creative talents, including an ambitious sight and sound exhibition.
Well, I've had some opportunity of having exhibition of my art. I've been writing a couple of short stories which I haven't finished, and in recent so for some years now I've actually I've wanted to do some more in terms of recording. Right, I don't think I can take the travel and that things that people have to do. I think we can manage that. But the recording, so the writing songs, the art. You know what I've wanted to do for the longest while, and I hope I'll still be able to do it. I want to do an exhibition that I'll call Sight and Sound. Years ago, I went to Moreno. This is an island off Italy. And I went to a program that they were having, and so we were in an outdoor, kind of like an auditor. You know, these seats that if you go to football or whatever, and they use just light and sound to recreate some civil war that had some connection with South America someplace. And I've been saying to myself, I want to do an art exhibition which will be sight and sound. So you will see some of the paintings, but there are some paintings when you get to, you have to pick up your earphone or your headset, and when you put it on, you're either going to hear a piece of music, which I have
done yourself.
Yes, or you will hear some spoken, the word artist as they call it, something spoken. I'm still working on that. And actually, so that's something that I've been thinking about and wanting to do, and a book of I call it sayings, but it's really in our Creole patois, just talking about life and what expressing myself in that medium. So those are two things that I'm working on.
Her advice to her younger self would be not to take yourself so seriously.
Enjoy life. So what if something breaks? If you can't mend it, and sometimes when you take these things that are broken and mend them, it's another piece of artwork, right? But don't take yourself so seriously. Learn to relax a bit. What the young people say, I'm saying chill, but it probably is a different word they're using now, which dates me. Learn, I would say, don't be so serious about life. Enjoy the moment, right? Do the best you can. And if you fail, don't beat up yourself. Don't beat up yourself, right? I think looking back, that's what I would tell my young self. Just love life, enjoy it. Don't beat up yourself. Do the best you can. When you have done the best you can, accept.
She expresses gratitude to those she has worked with.
I want to express my appreciation to all of the persons that I've worked with here in the CARICOM Secretariat. Some have left already, some are still here. I style myself now as a jam guy. And I've made some very good friends, I think. I've met a lot of lovely people. They say that every country has a national characteristic. I could say, if I were to say the national characteristic of Guyanese in the main, at least those that I've been mingling with, it's generosity and kindness. And I appreciate that. I've seen it here in my workplace. I've seen it in the way people embrace me, and I think I'm very blessed. I think one of the dreams I had as a child, I remember growing up and saying, God, I would love to see this world before you come back. Not knowing that nearly, how many years, 20, 30 years down the road, he would bring it, more than 30 years down the road, he would bring it to pass. So my life has really been enriched by being here. And I'll tell you one last thing. Anywhere God calls you, be sure it's a place of blessing. It doesn't mean it's a place of ease. Lots of trouble, lots of hard work, lots of frustration. But at the end, I can say I have grown. I hope I've matured. Yeah, but thank you to all of the people here present in the CARICOM Secretariat, in the offices, because I've worked with those in Barbados as well, in Jamaica, and to all of the people in the member states that I have worked with. I salute them and I say thank you.
We leave you with a sampling of Beverly's singing.
You are the first and the last. That's why we call you Alpha, Omega. You own the world. You rule the universe. You make the things we see and cannot see. You surround me with many victories. Jehovah Nissi, you're my banner. You go before me. You fight my battles. Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Nissi.
Stay tuned right here for more episodes on women at the CARICOM Secretariat.